So what I wanted to do today was talk about journalistic structure, and I have a few slides which are on Canvas like usual. We're sort of starting to think about writing about data. We talked about interviewing a data set, and eventually you're going to be writing a data journalism kind of style story, and I'd like you to use standard journalistic structure. So I wanted to talk about what that usually looks like. Like anything, there are like rules, and you learn the rules so that you can break them. So if you start looking at data journalism, you're going to notice that not everyone is doing this exact structure thing. But if you went to school for journalism, this would be something that you'd learn, like you'd spend your whole semester in journalism 101 learning about, and then you would use it to structure your stories. And then eventually when you got, to be a fancy New York Times journalist, maybe you would do different things. So the first thing is this idea of the inverted pyramid. I just pulled this image off of Wikipedia. And this is like an old journalistic structure. I should know how long it's dating back to. Probably the Wikipedia would tell me if I could go there. Yeah, I want to go there. Like 1800s, I feel like. History, 19th century. News stories talking about the assassination of President Lincoln. I guess that's a frequently cited example, so 1865. The way the inverted pyramid works is that you put the most important stuff at the top of the story, and oftentimes that has the who, what, when, where, why, and how, so the 5 W's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how. Those are like the main questions. And then you have the important details. And then at the bottom of the story, you have other general background info. And part of the reason for this was back when newspapers were just printed on paper, sometimes when they were laying out the paper, they would run out of space. And so the way that they would make something fit is they would just start cutting things off from the bottom of the story, like cut off the bottom paragraph and the next to the bottom paragraph and the next one. And so if you were writing a story, you needed to make sure that the most important stuff was at the top. I don't think that people are doing that anymore because we do a lot of online journalism, but I think that it still makes sense because of people's short attention spans, that you want to have the most important stuff at the top, and so then if someone only spends 10 seconds reading your article, they get the most important piece of it. Yeah, thoughts or questions about that? Okay. And then I just thought about some common elements of articles. Some of this got pulled from this Reuters handbook, and some of it is just kind of generic information. So if you look at an article, either in a physical newspaper or online in some journalistic source, the thing that you're going to see first is going to be the headline. So that's going to be, the short summary of the article. Then you're going to have the byline, and so that's the name of the author. It often also has the city where they're located. So the Associated Press, the AP, that's a journalistic organization that provides stories that sort of get put out on the wire, and then any other paper can pick them up and publish them. And so if it's an AP story, it'll always say, like Amelia McNamara, Minneapolis, Minnesota, so that it would say like where you were when you were publishing the story. So that's kind of before the actual article starts. And then the first paragraph or couple paragraphs of the article is called the lead. And there's 2 ways that they spell this. The one that I think is the most common is LEDE, which I think has something to do with like old school like typesetting with those metal letters that they would have to set out into rows. People now spell it more like leading someone, but that's the beginning. So that's the most important stuff that's going to hook you into the article. And so there's the there's like some different options for the lead, and I got these from the Reuters source. So there's the summary intro, which is similar to what the inverted pyramid was saying, you know, the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why. There's the wrap intro, the analysis intro, and then the one that I think I see the most often is the feature intro. And so this one like starts with human interest. So it might, you know, say, you know, this person was walking down the street and then this happened to them, or, you know, as so-and-so, age blah, blah, blah. Like, it kind of has some human interest. And now I also need to remind myself what those other ones were. The wrap intro is wrapping things together, pulling things together. And the analysis intro is an argument. So this is an argument, and this is pulling things together. So that's the lead. And then after the lead is the thing called the nutgraf. Again, there's 2 spellings here, with a PH or with the F. Graph or graph is short for paragraph. Short for paragraph. So it's the paragraph that gets to the, like, the nut of the story, the most important, like the middle, the hard center of the story. So that's the so what. And then I don't know if there's a word for like the bulk of the story, but that's the bulk of the story. I don't have a bullet for it there, but that sort of happens in between the lead and the nutgraf, and then there's the bulk of the story, and then the thing at the very end is often called the kicker. So that might have like a call to action, or a summary, or another human interest piece. Like, sometimes it'll end with a quote from a person. So those are some of the main elements. Questions or thoughts about that? All right. So I just found, I was looking for articles that were not about the coronavirus. It is very difficult to find those right now. Like, I thought, oh, well, I'll get something about sports. Well, all the sports stuff is about coronavirus. And then once you get into like the more fluffy reporting, like about the arts, then it's not as often following the standard journalistic structure. So I went back and I found this article. Wow, it's only from February 26th. It feels so long ago when this article came out. And I can't see the link here. It is linked, so if you're looking at the slides, you can click the link and it'll take you there. Apparently I can't unhighlight this. Great. Yeah, no. Okay, I've just permanently highlighted it. So I just wanted to like sort of look at some of these pieces. Apparently I cannot write. Oh, there we go. So looking at the lead of this article, it's not like, that's not the very most important thing of the article. Pete Buttigieg is leading at 63%, Andrew Yang came in second at 46%, and Elizabeth Warren looks like she's in trouble with 0%. So that's not like the thing that you need to take away. That's not the nut graph, but it's the lead to kind of hook you in. And then I think that this next paragraph is actually part of the lead as well. So it says, those aren't poll numbers for the presidential contest. Instead, they reflect which candidates were able to consistently land in Gmail's primary inbox in a simple test. So I think this is also the lead, even though it's a second paragraph. So that's kind of what hooks you into the article. You're like, okay, I'm interested. And then I think that this sort of next couple paragraphs here, this is really the nut graph. So the markup: set up a new Gmail account to find out how the company filters political emails. We found that few of the emails we'd signed up to receive made it to the primary inbox. The first one the user sees when opening Gmail, and the one the company says is for the mail you really, really want. So I think that if you were imagining that this was getting printed in a physical newspaper and paragraphs got pulled off the bottom of this, if you just read that far into the article, I think that you'd have the big idea of the story. And then of course there's like the full analysis in the story. We've got our headline, which is swinging the vote. We've sort of got like our subtitle or subheadline. And then this is the byline, who it's by. So let's scroll down. So we've got like some kind of data visualization, a little bit kind of table thing. Scroll down to the very end and see how they wrap this up. So some political organizers and advocates say they're frustrated by Gmail's categorization and question what political emails have to do with sales, as the promotion's name implies. Gavin Wax, president of the New York Young Republican Club, put it this way: it's just a step up above spam. So I think that's a pretty classic kicker. So we're ending it with a quote from someone that is showing us the overall idea. So I think this is the kicker. But you wouldn't need that, if that had gotten cut off, you would have still had the idea of the story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you into breakout groups again, like we did last class. And what I'd like you to do is just pick an article that you want to analyze the structure of and look for the elements that we talked about. So look for the headline, the byline, the lead, the nutgraf, see if there's a kicker, and see if it seems to use the inverted pyramid. Like, is the most important stuff in the top few paragraphs? I picked out some articles. I don't know if any of these are really data journalism, but they're data journalism adjacent. It's just things that I had seen recently that piqued my interest and were not related to the coronavirus, but you could also pick something else you're interested in.